If John doesn't subscribe...
Hello, welcome back again to Jurassic with Evolution 2 and this new really fun park build series that we've been doing, Jurassic Arizona 2045, for Episode 3. And today we are building 3 exhibits, which you'll notice the Spinosaurus is on the thumbnail, and Spinosaurus did not win the poll. The reason for that is because I ended up building 3 habitats and I needed a 3rd species, so I put just another one from that poll. And yeah, basically, this is the start of the one of 2 loops that this park will be made of. This is the smaller loop, and I want it to still feel like it's kind of near the entrance of the park, so we're not going to be like totally just a path lined with stuff that goes through exhibits. We want this to be still, you have all these plazas everywhere and stuff. And you guys might notice the speed build is a lot shorter this episode. That's not because it was a smaller build, it was actually the largest build I've done yet in this park. That's because, like, 60% or more of the time doing this build was just placing rocks. And also, I knew those last episodes were kind of long, so I sped up this one even more. Depending on where you are in the video, it's between 1,000 and 3,000% speed. When I'm placing rocks, it's 3,000%, the rest is 1,000. And I did cut out a couple hours of placing rocks, which we're at over 8,000 rocks 3 episodes in. Not sure how this is gonna go later into the series, so I did end up slightly downsizing my plan for the park. We're probably gonna only use up about half this map. But I will say this looks really good so far. So yeah, I'm basically doing this little plaza off to the side with just a restroom and stuff. This is the areas where I feel like I want more buildings. There's a Waffle House, by the way, that I customized. And yeah, just some rock gardens, because we don't really have good plants, but I like mixing in, just the paleo foliage. I wish we had paleo foliage individually placeable. So, yeah, this path kind of goes around this big exhibit here on one side of the monorail structure, and the other side is the Concavenator exhibit, which actually comes from a comment suggestion from like 5 months ago on the tour of my last park build, actually. So, yeah, I'm basically creating this canyon to separate the guests from this habitat, which is the Spinosaurus habitat, when they're in the main area, like a moat, kind of like you have in the Jurassic Park original. And yeah, I really like doing this thing with the viewing galleries where it kind of juts out into the exhibit and you have 3 or 5 of them sometimes. So yeah, just kind of working with the terrain here a lot. We're going to have a lot of rocks, and it kind of all centers around this monorail structure, which I think ends up looking really good because it just like overshadows the canyon, but also is a nice backdrop to the Spinosaurus exhibit, and just brings in this height that also helps the zip lines not feel too ridiculously tall, because the zip lines we have here do end up really tall, and I think it actually looks okay in the ends. But yeah, this build was suggested a long time ago to build a Concavenator or Carnotaurus canyon. And I don't end up actually placing the Concavenator in the habitat in this episode because I didn't build the other side of the fence yet, because that's going to depend on what we build in episode 7. And so, yeah, I didn't actually place them in the habitat, but most of their habitat is done. And our other habitat is Ouranosaurus, that we'll get to in just a second. So I'm just coloring in the rock texture, and I was thinking at this time, we're not going to entirely coat this with rocks. We're going to just use the big rocks probably in the rock texture, mix in some cycads. I didn't do that. So I'm not sure if this is quite an effective barrier against the Spinosaurus, but they're not really going to get over to this side because they would have to climb through the canyon first, and moats keep out animals at the zoo. And yeah, you could say, yeah, the guest could jump into the exhibit, but the same thing goes at like an actual zoo. You'll have bear habitats that I could just jump into the bear habitat, but it's still considered a safe exhibit. So yeah, here you can see what 3,000% speed looks like, which I left in a lot of the rock placing just because I thought it was funny to have it on a super high speed. And here's something I really wanted, was a semicircular plaza where the zip lines would connect to. And yeah, just kind of that's extra viewing for the Concavenators, because we have that for the Spinosaurus, the 3 viewing gallery thing. And yeah, you can see how tall these ended up looking, but I think in this kind of park where we're going for this kind of crazy architecture, kind of futuristic almost looking, because it is 2045 Arizona, and kind of just a feel of let's build the things that will bring the people here. You know, the dinosaurs aren't the only attraction at the park. You also have just the buildings and what it looks like. Kind of Jurassic World-esque in that way. So I think it's fine to have these really tall zip lines. I imagine they're not stairs, and that instead they're an elevator up the tall ones. Because otherwise no one would be riding the zip line. Or maybe it is stairs, and that's how we keep, like, because we don't have a queue for these, which I would normally build. You have to climb the stairs if you want to ride the zip line, so that's why it doesn't get too crowded. So, yeah, I didn't want to do anything fancy with the pathwork, because last episode was plenty of pathwork for me. And, yeah, I didn't like how... I actually don't end up really loving how this path works, with it being double-lined with fences. And it kind of feels like, you know, this close to the main street, it shouldn't feel that claustrophobic or anything. But I think it's fine since we're near the staff section. And the Tyrannosaurus exhibit, you'll notice I put a gate on there that's actually going to lead into where we have the staff section, eventually. And, yeah, this fence isn't probably electrified. It doesn't need to be, because not only would the Spinosaurus not be able to break it if it were a real animal, and it's also, you know, separated by the moat and stuff, but I just put the concrete barriers there because I couldn't not put something there. And, here starts the rock placement. I really do like how the rock structures end up looking, and I just really love the end result of this habitat. I think it's one of my better, if not best, habitats I've ever built, despite the lack of trees. And, you know, on this map, what's happened with this is, the rocks kind of take the place of the trees, so we don't have trees. Every spot, for me, especially after playing Prehistoric Kingdom for so much recently, every spot has to be filled by something, or I feel like the build's not done. The build's not done if I just leave this open grass, and I don't think it looks very good when I do that. So I end up just having to put something everywhere, and we don't have trees that are particularly good, and I don't want to overuse the temperate trees because it kind of defeats the purpose of being a desert, and so that ends up being mostly rocks. As far as the frame rate and stuff, I have had the part closed, but I did accidentally leave it open for the last 2 hours of this build, and I didn't notice any frame drops yet. So that's a good sign so far. Yeah, I think this build was just about 6 hours. I think a little under, maybe. And, honestly, this wasn't, like, for a lot of people, just this continuous placement of pieces gets, like, boring or it's not fun, but I just, for some reason, like doing this park building, just the same as I like building in Prehistoric Kingdom. Yeah. And we're at over 8,000 rocks, but I don't remember what all else. Over 5,000 of Small Desert Rock 1. Almost at 6,000, I think. So yeah, honestly, I don't have much to talk about on rocks, so I believe I had like 5 other things I want to talk about during this voiceover, but instead of writing stuff down, I generally just click record and then talk, so I kind of forgot what those were. Well, I guess I can talk about the next episode, because the poll is already up. And, it's possible the next episode I might have to... The next episode will probably be out next week, but I do have the Jurassic World Chaos Theory video to make, because I'm going to review Season 2 once it's out that week, which will give me a chance to get ahead on this build, because it's going to take a lot of time to do one of these builds and release an episode every week. And I want to release one pretty much every week to, you know, get this done by December for this park. So, this little cutout area, which I was originally going to have be like a rest area for the Spinosaurus, but I ended up putting their feeder in there. I do like putting the feeders in habitats, because at least that maybe can imply that there's a way for the staff to manage these habitats that you can loop all the way around. Maybe that's a tunnel to underground, which, you know, there's really no way to explain the Metrodon habitat being like that, but the way it is with... It doesn't, because they don't have a feeder in there. So, yeah, I put up the poll for next episode. It's Spinosaurus or Chunkingosaurus will be building the VIP section of the park. Bringing back the poll that got like 70 votes last time, because Jurassic Swine shared it and some other people shared it because they really very strongly opinionated on which one's better. And so I'm excited to see how that poll goes this time. And yeah, we can get one of those guys in our park. That'll probably be the only species next episode. And I don't even know for the episode after that because we're building for the facility area, probably. So anyways, around this point we're almost done with rock placement. And I made like these kind of curving, tendrily like arm structures that are supposed to be like veins of rock in the ground. I started lowering the terrain there because you'll notice there's actually no fence between the concavenator habitat and the Spinosaurus habitat. So it's really just one habitat that they can't access each other because of the mountain in the middle, and the monorail structure looks like it's a serviceable fence. So, what was I just talking about? Oh yeah, we're gonna have a big herbivore habitat with a tour going through it, and that will be on the side of the amphitheater where, the far side of the amphitheater, and also connected to the concavenator habitat. So that's why I was lowering the terrain there, and why I didn't really know what to do with the fence, because I'm not sure what will be over there. And that's the same thing that happened with the Nigrosaurus. Like, we'll be changing that whole backside of the exhibit for next time. And since I already placed 2 species, I thought it was fine to just... But it is for concavenator. And I actually really like how this section ended up looking. And I think this park's going to be my most consistent looking so far. Like, if you look at my last park, Island Paradise Park, it's kind of changes, which was partially intentional to have this changing theme of going through the jungle from this resort-looking thing to the dark swamplands and stuff, and then back to this more Jurassic Park-styled resort thing. But, yeah, I think this park's going to look really good once it's done, assuming it gets finished without crashing. Hope that won't happen. Looking at Task Manager and, like, CPU, will be good on CPU. Not sure about RAM, though. So this little emergency shelter is serving as a way for the staff to go into the staff section, or maybe guests to go on tours to the staff section. I don't know. And you'll notice I'm placing these amenities again. We're placing a lot of amenities. There's not a lot of other guest buildings that really worked for me in this park, so I end up just doing that a lot. And, you know, I can't place this much unbroken path. More than 2 wide paths wide is too much for me, so I had to leave a little break in this semicircular plaza, but I think it still leaves space for people to queue up to get on the zip lines and stuff, and avoid too much traffic, because this would be kind of a hub area. You'd have probably staff people in here, guests trying to get on and off the zip lines, trying to go see the Spinosaurus, trying to go see the big herbivore valley and stuff. Yeah, and just more concrete barriers. These are really helpful in this build, and I did use them all to all this episode, a couple places. I've used a few of them. It just doesn't really fit the aesthetic of this park, so I end up just placing a lot of concrete barriers, which I find I have a lot more patience for placing these after so much Prehistoric Kingdom, which is good. There I placed a feeder for the Spinosaur, and that was pretty much like 90% of the build done. We just have to customize these amenities and do the habitat work on the Tyrannosaurus habitat, which I know is supposed to be the main focus of this habitat, and the Spinosaur, this episode, sorry, and the Spinosaur habitat was originally supposed to be the Tyrannosaurus habitat, but it just looked so much more like a Spinosaurus habitat that that's the one I ended up putting in there, even though Tyrannosaurus was supposed to be the main focus because it won the poll, and Spinosaurus just are extra species, but I do like the Tyrannosaurus habitat in the end, and I think it's kind of neat to not have this big herd of hadrosaurs, just a little group, a family group or something. And a relatively simple habitat, and, you know, just using the canyon wall as the back wall, because you could actually do that here, and the environment and the landscape really lends itself here. And if you're going to use Southwest USA map, which is known as a not great map, it's good after the expanded layout, just still not the best. You have to use what it gives you, you know, these amazing landscapes. And is this little viewpoint there between the Jurassic Park walls the safest? No, but we can pretend there's glass there. It kind of looks like it anyways. So yeah, just recoloring lights. I'm still going mostly with our orange and yellow theme to keep the desert, but I do bring in some crazier colors in a couple places. I just can't do this everywhere, or it would just look really chaotic. And not the look I'm going for this park, but I think it's neat to bring it in a few places those focal points. So now it's time for the ground view tour. We're right here by the Dimetrodon habitats, which I think actually looks pretty good from the ground view. And we head over here to this Spinosaurus fountain, and I like that you can already see the monorail roof and the zip lines in the distance, and all these rocks and stuff. You can kind of see into the habitat. If the Spinosaurus were close, you could see it pretty well. I like this plaza, and this is something I would normally be tempted to block off, but I see no reason to. There's no reason the guests couldn't go over here. And I forgot to place benches here. That was supposed to be a little seating section. Yeah, here you can see what I mean. We can pretend there's glass here, which I think would look pretty good. Obviously, we don't have glass pieces in the game, though. It's close enough, though. And here where we're closer to the ground, we do have the fence to keep us separated from the Spinosaurus. You have these double habitats here. I actually don't like this because of how thin the path is. I could move those planters closer to the fence and then use that little section to make it a little better, but it's fine. It's just a little corridor. I think at night, especially with those lights that shine into the Spinosaur habitats. And here's our prime viewing opportunity for the Spinosaurus with the Biosyn fountain. I didn't want to use the same fountain again that we used for the Spinosaur skull. And they look pretty good. I used the one good skin, and I just put 2 in here because it didn't feel right for this to be a single animal habitat. And I just love how tall the monorail structures are there, which you guys know I don't particularly like monorail structures, and I don't usually use them, but they just work too well in this park. This is my one opportunity to use them, same as this is my one opportunity to use a hybrid dinosaur as a actual just normal dinosaur attraction, which we will be doing pretty late in the series probably. And here we are at this more open area, which I think actually looks decent from ground view, with these benches on the sand that you can sit in, and just looking at the concave air habitat. The view wouldn't be great because the rocks are kind of tall, but I think it's alright. So yeah, here's your zip line. You get a great view of this canyon. I think this would be an awesome experience and just like a destination thing that would be on like the booklet of the park, and you'd also be able to see the sauropods from here most likely. And you get straight out the zip line and you're right here by the Amphitheater Hotel, which is pretty cool. It just links back to Main Street and kind of mini completes the loop, because the main loop will be longer. Thank you guys for watching this episode. Subscribe to the channel if you want. Like the videos. Stay tuned for episode 4 of this series coming probably next week. Bye, everybody.